Hi, folks. Welcome to Scholar About Tarot. Just call me Mayfield, and thanks a ton for stopping by the study space. Today, I actually wanted to do a VR to Pointed Logic, their video on tarot budgeting, which I thought was super awesome, and really just made me reflect on my own form of tarot inventory. So Pointed Logic basically showed their own tarot inventory and just kind of how to calculate like your spending per month, which was the ultimate goal for that particular video. Um, my spreadsheet is for slightly different reasons. And I guess I can just kind of offer you my spreadsheet origin here. So I absolutely love working with Excel. I always really loved utilizing spreadsheets for inventory purposes and all that good stuff, like um, in my, professional life. And then I saw a video from Kim from the Abundant Life Tarot, and she had her own inventory list. And I cannot for the life of me find this video. I was trying to look for it before I started recording this, and I couldn't locate it very easily. I know for sure it had to have been something that you uploaded about 5 or so years ago. And I kind of realized when I was, watching this video, I'm like, oh my God, that's genius. Why don't I have an inventory list for all of my tarot decks? And so I just grabbed every single one of my tarot decks and I collected, all the information, a good chunk of it that you see here. And then I had to do kind of run the extra mile to find where I purchased it and collect that information as well, like how much I paid for it. And I think at that time I had about, I want to say 40-ish decks, but let's I guess take our tour because now I'm up to, oh boy, there we go. I'm up to 101 decks. I'm pretty sure I'm missing a couple of them though, because I haven't been very good about updating this list. But I mean, it's not too shabby. It's pretty accurate so far. So what I include in my tarot inventory is that I have a deck, I have the author's name, retail price, price I paid, the place that I purchased it, and any notes of particular relevance. There are a couple of hidden cells here. So I have worth right here that I don't really use for this master tab. And then I also have the ISBN number, which is a number that's usually associated with books, but is also associated with tarot decks, because tarot decks kind of count as books in a retail sense. Um, this was particularly important early on, but since I don't purchase very many tarot decks mass market as much as I used to, I haven't really used this column since. Um, but a couple of other notes here. So we have anything that's in bold is out of print. Anything that is italic is to be received or pre-ordered. And anything that's underlined is an independent or indie deck. So I just kind of keep that kind of stuff listed just so I'm aware on what I have. Or at least this is kind of a relic of what I used to have before I did. Maybe I got a little carried away, but I no longer have just the master tab. I also have the purgatory box. I have an entire list that's dedicated to decks that are gone, an OOP list, and then a wish list. So I can give you a tour of everything else as well. So here is my purgatory box. I did have a video that I posted maybe about 3 years ago on what was in my purgatory box, and unfortunately, nothing has really changed. So I still have all of these decks in their purgatory box, and I just haven't had the opportunity to be able to sell them. I might have gifted one or two, but that's the extent of what I've done. I do have, however, an additional column that's called seller's notes. So once I am ready and prepared to sell these decks, I do have additional notes. A lot of these are honestly things that I have listed in that video that I mentioned on my Purgatory box. And I mean, it'll list like some stuff like, some images are oversaturated, some cards are a little blurry. I do like and value transparency, so I would make sure to include all of that stuff too. That's the Purgatory box. Oh, and if you're interested in, seeing these cards and knowing more about them, I'll link that video below. Here is the list of all the decks that have left my collection. For the most part, it does seem to be, I'd say maybe a majority mass market decks that have left. All of these decks have been gifted. None of them have been sold, with the exception of the Tarot Palmyra Campagna. This deck has never been received, and as far as I know, the project has been abandoned. And now we got our OOP tab. So this one was really just more for funsies, just for my personal enjoyment, I guess. Um, so the additional columns that I've added for this one is true OOP. So this is a deck that has no reprints or no subsequent editions that are available. And then I also have a separate column for notes that's specific to this particular deck edition. And this is, I mean, this kind of stuff changes all the time. I think I'm about half and half true OOP tarot decks because some of these have had additional editions or have gone mass market. But for like notes on the deck edition, like for example, the Deviant Moon Tarot, this is the paradoxical edition and it's limited to like 500. Or maybe the Phantasma Oracle. This was the special edition, which is round. Um, and then I'll also make note on any possible reprints that might be inbound. So I would just, click this off and it would no longer be true OOP anymore, which is perfectly fine by me. I'm always like as fun as it is to collect like all of my OOP tarot decks and put them on a separate list. I will say that I do always hope that tarot decks are given a second chance or a third chance. Since it makes me feel weird when I show them off or even when I do calculate their worth. Um, let me actually take a break to tell you about how I calculate that. It's not super scientific, TBH. So here, worth calculated by watchcount.com, bookfinder.com, and product availability. So watchcount.com is a website that has all of past and present eBay listings, and you can actually kind of track at what items are listed and how much that list price is for that particular item. I like to use there's like a separate tab for completed listings. And so I'll look up, for example, like the Hexen 2.0, let's say, when it was actually out of print. I would look that up on the completed tab and it would show me all the listings that have been available and how much they got sold for. And for the most part, a lot of them were, usually maybe like 200, 250. Every once in a while, there would be a listing that was maybe at 300. So it would give me a good idea on how much a deck sits for and how much it actually sells for. Bookfinder.com is another website that I use to track just general availability for any particular deck. In this case, however, it was particularly useful for any deck that did have an ISBN number, which is why I did once upon a time have that information available for myself. Because once you put that specific ISBN number in, it just pulls up any listing for that specific edition. And the only thing that I would maybe say about Bookfinder that was a little inconvenient is that um, it would list any item availability, but it would include any back-ordered listings. So when something is back-ordered, that basically means it's not available and they don't really know when it's going to be available. Sometimes you're lucky and they'll have another round of reprints coming on in, but that was not often. And then product availability, that just really depended on how much this deck, I guess how many units like this deck has, and that's if that information is available. So like that Paradoxical Deviant Moon, for example, limited to 500 editions, so we figure out just kind of how much we would want to sell that for. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I kind of lowball them sometimes, primarily because I wouldn't really I mean, for a good chunk of these decks, I wouldn't feel all that great about selling them at a certain price point. Like I'm pretty sure the Fyodor Pavlo Tarot can actually sell for a decent amount, way more than this. And I know for sure that the Yochi Yokai down here would sell for more than $400, but like that would be weird. So I mean, like honestly, like for the Yochi Yokai, if hypothetically speaking, I would actually sell it, it would probably be an auction, and I'd probably put it at maybe $100 and kind of see where the market takes it. But I mean, that's a poor example because I wouldn't actually sell it, and I'm so sorry for bringing it up. Anyways, um, moving on. Uh, yeah, once upon a time, I did actually have like the worst here listed, and I do try to update it as often as I can. Um, And sometimes I would also lowball it because for a lot of the decks that I purchased from Barnes& and Noble, for example, I got them at a discount. So, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if I just kind of like, listed it under list price, pay it forward, I guess. But again, that's under the hypothetical situation that I would actually sell something. And then finally, we have our wish list tab. So I need to also be better about updating this list because I do get that itch to want to purchase something. Um, but I need to be better about buying things in general. I need to make sure that my wallet agrees, which is why I have an additional column on what's stopping me from purchasing something. So, like here for Myths and Legends Tarot, like it's the price point. It did go out of print, but I think there's a Kickstarter out right now, as of this recording. Um, and I am considering it, but we gotta make sure the bank account agrees. But I also put other stuff like is the deck to my standards? Like, is it is it matching to some of the other stuff that the artist had done? Um, so this is actually really embarrassing. I did actually purchase this. So this needs to be moved to the master collection. So I guess I have at least 102 decks now. And then there are tarot decks or there are decks that I am planning on buying. I just need to bide my time. So that is basically my inventory list. One thing that I do wish that I had included that Pointed Logic has on their list is a date purchased column. I saw them share that and I'm like, oh, why didn't I add that there? But I think at the time, I had 40 decks to plop onto an Excel sheet and I was like, I was probably just not even thinking about date purchased. And there is also a very real possibility that for a lot of these, it would have been hard to get anyways, because I don't keep all of my receipts, especially for the Barnes& and Noble ones. Like anything that I might have purchased in person would have been very hard for me to track. But I mean, anything that I would have gotten on online, it wouldn't have been the worst. thing in the world to go an extra mile to maybe grab that information. But, it's pie in the sky at this point. I can probably say from memory that I think a lot of my purchases were probably in 2020. So I can attest that 2020 was maybe my all buy year. So in case you're curious, I do have some fun information for you guys. So let's go ahead and unveil the total. There we go. So total retail price is $4,791.15. Total price paid, 4,241. Yeah. Yeah, $4,241.22. So I guess it's not bad. Like I got some pretty good discounts, especially from my Barnes and Noble type days, because Barnes and Noble gives an amazing discount. I know it says 30% off right now, but I think right now, if you work for Barnes and Noble in the US, as far as I know, I think it's up to 50% off for books. And then I think maybe 30% off for like vinyl and like movies and stuff like that. Total worth is super arbitrary, and honestly, I do feel like I need to kind of get rid of that because as you saw in my Purgatory box, and as I shared with you, it's it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to put that there if I'm gonna drag my feet selling stuff. You know what I mean? So there's a good possibility that I might get rid of that, but I just got to think about it a little bit more. But I don't know, what do you guys like to add on your inventory lists? And what do you think, like, what kind of information helps you with whatever goals you have in tracking all of your deck purchases? Shockingly, I typically don't have a problem with accidentally purchasing duplicates, which I totally thought I would, but um I've never needed to watch out for that. Any kind of duplicate that I do purchase has been intentional. Um, so I think for the most part, just my purposes for um just keeping track of everything is just to, I guess, just to see what I have and where it's gone and just kind of what I do with it. Sometimes I do kind of look through the list and realize, oh hey, I have this deck that I haven't really used much, and it would be cool to kind of like rekindle that um like that interest in it. So, I'll pick it out of my physical collection and, I'll mess around with it for like a couple of weeks and see where that takes me. But yeah, what is your goal for having an inventory list? Or if you don't have an inventory list yet, like do you think you might want one? I will say that I used to use Microsoft Excel to keep track of everything, but then I felt like I needed easier access to being able to make edits. So I switched over to Google Spreadsheets, which I kind of regret because now all of Google products are just kind of like riddled with AI, so it's not my favorite thing. But I mean, to be fair, it is accessible and I can actually like um get into my spreadsheet anytime that I need it. But But I don't know, what kind of platforms would you use to keep track of your stuff? But yeah, let me know in the comments, or if you want to do a VR to what is now a tag, I guess. Definitely, definitely let me know. I'd love to see your spreadsheet. But until next time, folks, make sure we're making discourse and not war in the comments. Otherwise, I'll catch you later, okay? Bye bye.